Hello, and in today's video we're doing an FPL preview for game week number 35. That's right, it's double game week 35 with Tottenham and Chelsea doubling in this game week. And this game week, the wild card is active for my team. So I'm going to go through how I got on in double game week 34, whether it was a green arrow, what transfers we made, and also how my wild card is looking ahead of the 11 o'clock deadline. Get those teams locked in for the double game week 35, and a lot of people playing a wild card in game week 35 makes a lot of sense to then bench boost in 37. So let's get into it. We'll start off by looking back at how we got on in double game week 34. So my transfers in double game week 34 were the following. I brought in Eberechi Eze for Heung-min Son because Son had the blank game week and Eze had the double game week. And a lot of people went in on Crystal Palace players, the likes of Elise, Mateta, someone who I already owned a few weeks ago anyway. And I went for Eze because I felt that he was more sure for minutes than Elise with his current injury issues. And Eze's being, really good this season for Palace on penalties. And he had two fixtures that were at home against a West Ham and Newcastle side that both of them have been defensively suspect. And Crystal Palace beat Newcastle 2-0 and they beat West Ham 5-2. And Eze did get a nice haul in the first game. Nothing in the second game, unfortunately, but a 14-pointer across both games, we take that. That is absolutely a successful transfer. 14-point gain on Son. So we love that. The other transfer I made was Virgil van Dijk. He came in because of the double game week that Liverpool had away to Fulham and away to Everton. I thought that if there wasn't going to be two clean sheets, then maybe one attacking return from a Virgil van Dijk bullet header from a corner. But it didn't happen, and Liverpool conceded in both games, and their title race is pretty much over. They beat Fulham, fairly comfortably, and unfortunately I didn't have enough money to get Trent, so I had to get Virgil instead, and Trent scores against Fulham to rub salt in the wound. And then in the second game I thought that Liverpool would win that fairly comfortably against Everton, but fair play, Everton absolutely dominated and proved me wrong. So Virgil, 2 points over a double game week. That is very frustrating, but it's just one of those things with a double game week. You try and go for the double game week and always one to chase the upside, but sometimes it can be a bit underwhelming. In terms of underwhelming, one of those things is Mr. Norberto Neto, because he got benched in the second game of Bournemouth's double. It was maybe a thing that was coming because recent performances from Neto have not been great for Bournemouth, but to see Travers starting for Bournemouth was absolutely painful. Also in the first game for Bournemouth, a really disappointing 1-pointer. And look, he was playing Manchester United, but you kind of felt that might be a few save points in there somewhere. You kind of felt maybe there'd be some returns. Obviously, that was last game week. The double for Bournemouth was okay. Aston Villa, a team that, they've been quite good this season, but you felt maybe that might be okay. But no, instead, he got 1 point and then nothing against Wolves. So, very frustrating for Neto. Then Saliba, 14 points, lovely stuff. Arsenal getting clean sheets against Chelsea and also in their game against Wolves. Such a solid back line. Saliba, bonus points. That's what he's really good at getting. Gabriel as well, 12 points. It's good to see that the Arsenal defence, double defence, has come true. Obviously, it's coming clutch, but Ødegaard and Havertz the last couple of weeks have been good as well. So I've just been on those three for a long time, and I didn't feel it was worth changing it. Havertz did haul big against Chelsea, but I think it's still fine. Mikalenko, 7-pointer. He was on my bench, first on bench, in case Erling Haaland didn't make the squad for the Brighton game, and that was the case. So Mikalenko, heroic clean sheet points and bonus point in the first game against Nottingham Forest, which was lovely. Just a shame about the second game. I think it might have actually been a 6-pointer in the Forest game, and then he got subbed off in the second game against Liverpool. very frustrating, and especially because at the time I picked Mikalenko, it was because of the fact that Branthwaite was flagged, so I thought not worth getting Branthwaite. Mikalenko, is just as good for a bit more money. And in the end, Branthwaite scores against Liverpool just to really show that swing. So frustrating stuff, that one, really. Hwang Hee-chan, 2 points. Yeah, Wolves, not great. It wasn't good at all because Hwang did start the game against Bournemouth and then came off on about 50 minutes or something for the Arsenal game. And then the Hwang, goal that was ruled out was just painful. He got booked and then didn't get his goal against Bournemouth. I just don't know how that happened, but the 2 points across both games, very frustrating. He was robbed against Bournemouth because that goal should have stood, in my opinion. A very soft foul on Mateus from Kluivert from Mateus Cunha. Saka, 9 points. Yep, we take that. It's not the end of the world. It's not ideal either because he got an assist at least against Chelsea. It's just, I would have loved him to be a bit more explosive, but in the end I didn't actually captain Saka anyway, so I captained Salah, which made a lot of sense. It's Mo Salah, he's Mr. Reliable, but Liverpool just had a bit of a shocker this week in terms of not scoring as many goals from Salah as we would hope, and Salah getting benched in the first game against Fulham, and then, putting in an absolute stinker against Everton, and so just the 6 points, very frustrating. The front two, though, much better. Mateta, 29-pointer. What a king. When I brought him in a few game weeks ago now, he was a uber differential. And since this game week, up to this game week now, he's become much more higher owned. But what a legend. 29 points. It's 16-pointer in the first game against West Ham. And then to get 2 goals in the game against Newcastle was just beautiful. And he's going to be gone from my team on WILDCARD. But just absolute legend. Mateta, we thank you for your services. And Solanke, 8 points. Yep, good to see that. He scored in the game for Bournemouth. It was at least something for the game week for Solanke because, a bit frustrating in the second game against Wolves. But at the end of the day, we take it. Return is a return. And you know what? The goal against Villa was a penalty. That's why we own penalty takers. As simple as that. On the bench, we had Areola with 0 points. Haaland with 0 because he didn't play. Palmer also did not play for Chelsea with an illness. And then Zabarnyi, he was also on my bench because I felt that it wasn't worth playing him. I felt that Villa and that Wolves game, Bournemouth were conceding both. They did just do that in the first game, but then they didn't in the second. The worst bit about it is I thought, I'll start Neto, that'll be enough. Neto doesn't play in the second game, and Zabarnyi picks up the clean sheet on my bench. Bit frustrating, but to be honest, I was probably only going to get one auto sub in anyway, which was Haaland, and Mikalenko came in for the exact same score, so not too fussed about that. So all in all, a huge game week, 104 points, but more importantly, back to a green arrow, which is, to be honest, a massive relief. These last couple of weeks have been tough. Just kind of getting my head back in the game, a little bit struggling in game week 31, big drop, and then getting back up to 55k, we were thinking, yep, we're absolutely loving it, and then hit hard with the disappointment that was game week 33. So to get back up to a green arrow and to be in this position with still the wild card and bench boost ready to fire is great to see. So I feel like we're in a pretty strong position now for the run-in, and this is what our team is looking like on WILDCARD. So it's not final, although it probably is. It's just that I haven't been changing it too much because I don't want to overthink a lot of these decisions, but depending on team news right till the last minute, this could change. But I'm pretty set on most of this WILDCARD, to be honest, and I think it's looking pretty juicy. So in goal, we've gone for Vicario for Tottenham because I think when you look at the goalkeeping options, you got to go for players that double in 37 because you want to have the 15 double game week players on the bench boost in 37. So if you look at double game week goalkeepers, you've got Onana. Yeah, well, that's fine, but he doesn't double in this game week. So I'd rather have a doubling keeper for this game week. So then you're picking between Petrovic and Vicario, and I do feel there could be a chance that Sanchez comes in for one of Chelsea's remaining games. and Vicario I don't think will get dropped. So that's ultimately why I've gone Vicario. Now, do I rate the Tottenham defence? No. But what Vicario does do is he gives you a lot of save points. We know how much they'll concede chances, and that's the exact reason that I've gone for Onana as my backup keeper, because Man United concede a lot of chances, a lot of shots, and that means save points. And to be honest, when you want to go for doubling goalkeepers, you want to pick teams that concede chances and get save points, because the fixtures aren't great for doubles for clean sheets, and so therefore what's the alternative? Get save points. So that's why I've gone Vicario. I think it makes just the most sense of all the goalkeepers. I don't want Edison. I definitely don't want a Brighton goalkeeper, and I'd rather go for the triple up in Newcastle outfield than in goal, because we just don't know the situation with Dubravka and Pope and when he'll be back. Equally with someone like, looking at it, you could maybe pick out someone like, I don't know, a Raya or something who doesn't double and he's got okay fixtures, but I'm not that keen on that, to be honest, when I'm wildcarding. So Vicario's in there. Then we got Axel Disasi, who is a bit of an interesting rogue punt, but it's mainly just because of the injury to Malo Gusto. Now, if I get news that Gusto is fine, obviously Palmer, he's back for Chelsea, back in training, which is great to see. And also Gusto looked like he would be, but then it was released that Gusto would not be fit for the game against Aston Villa at the weekend. So therefore I felt it wasn't worth sticking with Gusto on the wild card. In terms of Reece James, he's still not available, but he's close. So is it worth taking the risk on Gusto when James could come back at some point? Probably not, because I think Gusto's still undergoing his rehabilitation program, and so therefore, am I going to gamble on it? No, probably not. Palmer should be fine for the squad, and I think he's worth obviously having. So I don't really like a lot of the defenders to pick outside of, Porro. So I want a doubling player for 37. I've got Newcastle because I think they're one of the better defences this season. Then you look at Man United. All right, you could go for a Dalot. That's what I've done. But outside of that, maybe a Gavardio, a Man City defender, fine. But that leaves me with someone else to fill in that fifth spot. And I think Disasi is pretty nailed. If you look at his recent games for Chelsea, he's played a lot of minutes. The only game he missed was against Everton. And he actually has a bit of goal threat as well. As you can see, the goal against Brentford, also scored earlier on in the season against Liverpool. So I think he's a decent pick. I know that Chelsea's defence has been a bit questionable, but to be honest, I'm going for these doubles. I'm going for the upside at this stage of the season. I've got to try and attack a top rank and try and get into that top 25k from a position of 77k. I've got to go for the double game weeks. So yeah, that's what I've gone for. Porro's there because he's just too attacking to ignore. Now I think he's going to be fine fitness wise. I'm hoping so anyway. And it's not the best double, but again, Porro's got that attacking threat, so we don't mind it. Fabian Schär's got Sheffield United at home. Doubles in 37. Makes a lot of sense to start him this week, I think, over Dalot, because the way Man United have been defending recently, okay, sure, I want Onana and Dalot in for the double in 37, but for this week, the way Burnley are going, they look like a team who, to be honest, could score goals. And Burnley, they are a very hot and cold team, don't get me wrong. They can blow hot and cold. And sometimes they've been great this season, sometimes they've been awful. But if you look at that Man United team, I would be very surprised if Burnley didn't score in that fixture, because this is the way that Man United are defending right now. So I'd rather start a Newcastle defender at home to Sheffield United, who are just so down and out, so struggling right now, and off the back of a Burnley team that just hit 4 goals against Sheffield United, they're going to have confidence. They might score a goal at Old Trafford. So that's why I'm starting with Fabian Schär, who has great attacking threat from set pieces, and yeah, just makes a lot of sense because Trippier is still injured out, and I don't mind Dan Burn, but he's not quite as attacking as Schär. So for me, Fabian has to be in there. We've got Palmer captain because it's Cole Palmer. It's a decision between Son and him because of the double game week, and it's quite simply Cole Palmer because now he's back in training. He's on penalties, as is Son. But what I will say with Palmer is he's got a home fixture in that Chelsea Spurs game, whereas Son is away, and then he's got the North London derby, which is a pretty tricky set of two fixtures. Now, of course, Son can do well in tough fixtures. He's done it in the past, but just the way that Palmer's playing, despite him missing that Arsenal game, I think he'll be back for a bang in game week 35. And yeah, he just was amazing the last few weeks, and no one's captained him out of, because of his price and just not giving him the faith of captaincy. But I think a Villa side who are conceding goals at the moment, and then a Spurs side who always do that. Arsenal will be a tough game, I think, for Spurs to score goals because their defence has been so strong. And then it's an away game. So I would just favour Palmer for the captaincy. Now that we know Palmer's back in training, it just makes the most sense. Foden, a Forest away game, which is looking tasty. I had to pick Foden because he's trolled me and he's scored big goals when he's not been in my team. So it's about time I got him back just for the final run-in. Now, of course, Pep could absolutely mess with me again and drop Foden now that I've brought him back. But I don't think he will. I think it's more likely he benches a De Bruyne or whoever. I know De Bruyne just scored against Brighton, but I think Foden, off the back of those 2 goals, he'll want to keep playing him because City want to wrap up the league, and Foden is just a joke of a player, really. I think that midfield picks itself. Son has to be there, and then Fernandes at home to Burnley makes a lot of sense. The way that Fernandes has been at the moment, 7 goals in 6 games, a home fixture to Burnley who can't keep a clean sheet, and then Gordon has got a great record at home games for Newcastle this season, and yeah, it's just been a fantastic pick this season, so makes a lot of sense. And then Erling Haaland, he's an injury doubt. I'm a bit more worried about him over the likes of Porro or Palmer because he did in time miss the squad, and we're not quite sure on the availability of him after that Brighton game. But what I will say with Haaland is he's good enough for you to sell him and regret it. So if he comes off the bench, even though he doesn't start, and then scores a brace, you'll think, why did I do that? So he's staying in there for now as a safety blanket, but we've got Mr. João Pedro as a little differential punt in the forward line as a backup if need be. And I want Haaland by 37 anyway. Even if City have wrapped up the league, Haaland might play most of the minutes anyway and still score goals. And then Isak's got Sheffield United at home. Again, makes a lot of sense. He's been absolutely unbelievable recently, and Sheffield United are trash. And Isak, yes, Wilson's back in training, but he's going to play the most minutes. So yeah, it just makes a lot of sense to me to go for those players, and I think this could be an amazing wildcard. I could be looking at 120 points with this wildcard, genuinely, or at least I hope so. Onana, he's on the bench boost, as I said, for 37, but Burnley could well score in that game, so I'm benching my United defenders over Share this week. I think you've got to start the 2 doubling defenders, and then Gvardiol probably concedes because you know what City's defence is like, especially at the City ground. Forest have got a lot to play for there. Don't get me wrong, City will probably still pummel them, but the odd goal conceded by Ederson would not surprise me. Gvardiol was mainly just there for the double in 37. And then we've also got there João Pedro, who I mentioned, who really is going to be an exciting pick if Haaland doesn't play. A little differential for this week because a lot of the rest of the team outside of Disassi is quite template. So it's quite nice to have a little interesting punt there. And certainly for 37, the double for Pedro, hopefully he'll do well. So that's the team locked in for the wild card. Pretty much locked in. We'll see if there's a few tweaks come the deadline. But that's what we're going for. Let me know in the comments, does this wild card absolutely rocket up my rank for this season and give me a good green arrow? I'd like to see it for sure. And let me know as well, would you make any improvements to this wild card? And I'll see you in the Game Week 35 review. Let's hope it's a positive one. Bye bye everybody.